So, November 26th is a landmark day in India, as on this day in 1949, the constitution of the country was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. To speak more about this and acquaint all of us to the constitutional values and fundamental principles of Indian Constitution, we have an eminent personality with us today, Professor Susmit Prasad Pani. On behalf of our school, Principal Ma'am, all our students, teachers and parents and viewers, I extend warmest welcome to Professor Susmit Prasad Pani sir on this platform. At the same time, I feel privileged to introduce our guest, Professor Pani, to all our viewers. Professor Pani began his career as a faculty at Revensa College, Kotak, and then joined as the principal of Aeronautics College, Sunabeda, and retired as the professor in Utkal University. Professor Pani, who was a UGC Research Fellow in IIT Kharagpur, also held many administrative positions. He was the former director of CDC and DDCE Utkal University, Registrar of Central University, Koraput, and the Honorable Member of National Assessment Accreditation Council of India. Besides guiding many students to their doctoral degrees, Sir also wrote many valuable books, namely Sri Aurobindo's Life and Thoughts, and Gandhi, Vivekananda, and Aurobindo on Education, etc. By today, Sir has delivered more than 100 lectures on teacher training programs in different universities of the country. We are really fortunate that we have got a dynamic man of letters and action amongst us. Now I request our guest, Professor Susmit Prasad Pani sir, to address the gatherings. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My dear students and teacher friends, today, as you know, is the Constitution Day of India. On this day in 1949, we had adopted and implemented the Constitution. We waited for few more days. On 26 January 1950, we declared our republic. We waited just because we had first time declared unilaterally our own independence way back in 1929 and in 1930 on 26 January. That is why we waited till 26 January. But this is the day on which the Constitution of India was enacted and adopted and implemented for all of us. Now let me tell you few things. Now before, say, the unwritten Constitution of Great Britain, it is really not that unwritten, but there is not a single document which you can call the Constitution of United States of United Kingdom. But when you talk of a single document as a constitution, it is the French after the Great French Revolution, it is the American after the Great War of Independence in United States of America. They were the first two people to draft a constitution and enact a constitution for their own people. Basically, a constitution defines how the governance happens in that particular country. And each constitution has a preamble. It were the French who wrote the first preamble. And we have, like rest of the world, also added a preamble to our own constitution. I will not go into details whether preamble is a part of the constitution or is just a welcome address kind of a thing or a preface kind of a thing, or it's a part of the constitution. That's a legal matter. It is sufficient to tell you that without going into the details and argument at this stage, we can say the preamble tells us about the Constitution. It talks of the values, just as your school must be having a vision and a mission. The vision and the mission defines the values that school adopts and the goals that the school has adopted or set for itself. Just like a vision and a mission statement and an objective statement for a school like yours, or for that matter, any other school, good school, the Constitution of India has a preamble which defines the basic tenets, basic values, and our aspirations. There are twofold things. It reflects in one way the values of the Constitution and basic features of our Constitution. On the other hand, it also speaks of what we aspire to become as a country, as a political nation in the coming days or in the coming centuries. That is very important. And we can, in say about 40 minutes time, we can only take few important aspects, and you may differ from me as to what is more important, what is less important. So I will make a choice and talk of 4 or 5 principles. Now you must have heard the Prime Minister, the President, and other dignitaries of India today, and you must have heard the preamble of India. Now we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. The key word is republic. So we decided to become a republic. And what kind of a republic? Sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic. Sovereign, I think you understand, when we say sovereign, that is the first and foremost value of our Indian constitution and Indian people, that sovereign means we are supreme, both internally and externally. This supremacy doesn't mean that we are not interdependent on the rest of the world or the world doesn't depend on us, but we take our own decisions. You must have seen in the recent days, there was a great political debate across India that when a China-dominated free market agreement was signed by China, Japan, and South Korea, Korea, and several other countries for regional cooperation, India did not join the group. India had participated in the negotiation. India wanted certain changes. It wanted to safeguard its own market and was afraid that we will be flooded with Chinese cheap goods. So we did not join. We did not join because we are a sovereign country. We can decide for ourselves. That is the most important thing, that we can decide for ourselves. And when in 1949 we adopted the Constitution, let us remember that we were a part of Commonwealth of Nations. Today we are also a part of the Commonwealth, but we are not a country whose chief executive or whose supreme leader is the Queen of England or the King of England. It is our own president. Republic means that the highest officer of the state, highest office bearer of the state is an elected person. He is not hereditary. And republic is automatically a democratic concept. If the republic is a dictator, he is not elected. You cannot call it a republic in the true sense of the term. The president of India is elected by the people. And the government of India is elected by the people. So democracy and republicanism are our supreme values. England cannot claim to be a republic because the king or the queen is a hereditary position. For that matter, even Japan is a monarchy. We are not a monarchy. We are a modern country and we are a republic. That is what the word sovereign means. Then let me come to the other word, socialist. Now this socialist word was not there in 1949. When we got independence and drafted our own constitution, we did not call ourselves socialists. It is only subsequently that the word socialist, by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution, during the emergency under the Prime Ministers of Indira Gandhi, that the word socialist was added. Now, what is socialism? And what do you mean by socialist values? No, socialism, it is said, is like a hat which everybody uses and it has lost its own shape. Many people mean different things by socialism. What does the Indian Constitution mean by socialism? Now, by socialism, we do not mean social ownership of means of production and distribution. as in a communist country, that the state runs everything and there are no individual business people. No, that is not the concept. Socialism means for us, from each according to his capacity, at least to each according to his work, if not to each according to his need. This is the socialist principle, that from each according to his capacity, everybody must work, everybody must sustain the republic, everybody must pay tax as per his ability. As per his ability. Don't think that the poor do not pay tax. If they buy salt, they pay tax. Everybody pays tax in India because most of the items are covered under today GST, General and Services Tax. So GST covers everybody. You may not be a direct payer of tax, but every one of us is an indirect payer of tax. So that is first thing. That means we are all participant. But the second part is much more important. First part is not that important. The second part is the government, the state, the system of governance is such that the basic needs of everybody needs to be taken care of. As I have said, that the preamble speaks of two things. One is aspirational part. This is the aspirational part. The people of India, through their government, aspire. I'm not saying that we have been able to take care of everybody. We have not been able to take care of everybody. True, everybody's health is not taken care of. Food is also, though there are many schemes, but we have not been able to eradicate poverty at full. But we are on the process of eradicating poverty. So eradication of poverty and providing the basic needs to everyone as per his need is our aspirational aspect. That way, it is a socialistic country. Socialism inspires us in that manner. It is not capitalism versus socialism, as many of you would like to believe. Now, in United States of America, socialism is not a value. It is not an accepted value. You will be surprised to know that for a pretty long period in the United States of America, Communist Party was banned. Even during the last election, the Trump administration time and again accused the opponent candidate of being a communist. But that is not the debate in Indian context. The Indian context, the socialist value means that we will take care of everybody. That is an aspirational aspect. The third thing is secular. Now, this word secular has to be understood properly by every student. I would rather devote my entire talk to secularism in today's context. What do you mean by secular? Now, even today in the political debate of India, the Congress Party, the Communist Party, or say the Trinamool Congress and many other parties accuse the BJP of being non-secular. And they think that BJP is not a secular party and does not subscribe to one of the most fundamental values of the Indian Constitution. In contrast, the BJP party or the right-wing parties or even the pure religion-led movement parties like the Muslim League of India and others, they say that we have a different understanding of secularism. So their understanding of secularism is different from the understanding of, say, the major Congress Party of India. But what is the genesis of secularism? Now, there are two meanings of secularism in today's context. One is the Western meaning of secularism. In that sense, secularism means the state has no religion of its own. State says that they recognize a religion, but they say religion must not play any role in public life. Say, for example, France. As a school kid, you are not allowed to put on a cross on your neck and go to the school. Or suppose you are a Sikh, you are supposed to put on a kangan and you can go to the school. No, not in France. France says that religion is an absolute private affair. For that matter, many countries hold that view, and the state has nothing to do with religion. It keeps away from religion. The state is secular. People may be religious, but the state has nothing to do with the religion of the people. But simultaneously, they guarantee that you are free to practice any religion that you like, as long as you maintain peace and order, so on and so forth. Now, in Indian context, the meaning of secularism over the years, say since the at least since 1850s, and the movement when Muslim League was formed in 1906, and even prior to that, the debate whether Urdu should become the official language, Persian should become the official language. As early as 1830s, this debate started in India, and it has evolved over the years. Today, our understanding of secularism under constitution is slightly different from many parts of the world. The most important part of secularism is that states shall deal with all religions equally. That means the state shall not religion over the other religion. It is not that we don't recognize a religion. We recognize a religion. But the government, the state, must deal with religion in a different manner and treat all religion to be equal. And it allows everybody to practice whatever his religion is, to propagate, not only to practice, but to propagate his religion also. We also allow religious groups to run their own educational institutions. Now, if you think of certain states where there is a state religion, say, for example, today Saudi Arabia, or for that matter, even Pakistan, they have a state religion. The state religion is Islam. So in that case, what happens is that those who do not practice Islam in an Islamic republic are treated as second-rate citizens. They do not enjoy all the rights. They are not equal citizens, for that matter. But in a country which calls itself secular, all religions are treated equally and all religions are practiced, allowed to practice. Now, as students of a school or a college, what is most important for all of us to remember is that religion has become a very hot topic today in the world, and it is harming the human society more than any other things. In my personal opinion, those who call themselves fundamentalist, whether Hindu fundamentalist or Muslim fundamentalist or white supremacists in America or any other country, various groups are there. Now, all these groups try to propagate only one idea, that my religion is correct, rest is wrong. My religion is superior, rest are inferior. Now, if that is the case, we have to fight that concept. A true secularist has to fight that all religions are correct, no religion is superior, and the individual is free to choose his religion. There is another extreme view in many countries. Now, until 1957 Cultural Revolution in China, they did not want to recognize religion at all. They did not want to recognize religion at all. You will be surprised to know, during the Cultural Revolution under Mao Zedong, many of the Buddhist and other religious places were converted into schools, colleges, public libraries, even hospitals, so on and so forth. The idea is that religion, as you know, Karl Marx said, religion is the opium of the masses. They wanted to do away with religion. But much later, around 1970s, 79 and 80, China also recognized that individuals need the freedom of religion. So our secular concept, if we are secular and you come to occupy offices in any capacity, suppose you become the headmaster of your own school after 10 years or 20 years, you will not choose a student on the basis of religion. You will not choose a teacher on the basis of religion. You shall not distinguish on the basis of religion. That is a very important value which our own constitution teaches us. So that is secular. And then democratic and republic. Republic, I have already explained to you that the head of the state is elected and for a fixed tenure. It is not that he will continue for all times to come. As you know, in United States of America, the president can be elected only for 2 terms. That means anybody can become president of America for 8 years only. And this was not prescribed earlier in the Constitution of America. It was changed. Why? Because a particular president fought for the 3rd term and got elected. So he became the president of America Roosevelt became the president of America for the 3rd term. He was the only president who became for the 3rd term. And when George Washington was the first president of United States of America, he led a very fundamental tradition. He said that I will not contest a 3rd term. So he refused to be the president of United States of America. I'm telling you this example because I'm talking of a tradition, a constitution. Constitution cannot be defined just by the laws that are prescribed. Very recently, an unfortunate incident has happened. In Bihar, for the last, since say 1910, Bihar was formed in 1910 as a state, and we were formed in 1936. From 1910 to 2020, the speaker was elected unopposed. Law does not prescribe that the speaker is to be elected unopposed. But in Bihar had set a great constitutional tradition where the speaker was not elected on contested. There was no election for the speaker. The ruling party was allowed to choose its own speaker, and he was elected unanimously. He was the speaker of the opposition and of the ruling party. But this was violated. And when people accused, the Bharatiya Janata Party accused the opposition of this, they said there was equally a great tradition in Bihar that the deputy leader of the assembly, deputy speaker of the assembly, was always from the opposition. And there was no election. During the last assembly, no deputy speaker was elected because the government did not want to concede. So what I'm talking of is that the tradition, constitutional traditions are as important as the constitution itself, because by traditions, everything cannot be written down. And by traditions, we set democratic traditions. We set traditions of great value. And there are numerous occasions in India where this tradition is, say, violated. Say, for example, in United Kingdom, never ever a member of the House of Lords can become the Prime Minister. There is no law preventing a member of the House of Lords to becoming the Prime Minister. But I have nothing against Professor Manmohan Singh, a great teacher, a great Prime Minister, but he was made the Prime Minister of India from the upper house. Similarly, the finance minister has to be from the Lok Sabha. As you know, the Lok Sabha passes the financial bill, the Rajya Sabha has no power over it. But we have numerous occasions where our finance ministers have been from Rajya Sabha. These are violations of our great constitutional values. That is why values are very important. If we erode the values, the constitution is a living thing and the democracy is compromised. Let us not compromise our democracy in any way. And then democratic. What is democratic? Now, today in the world, there are two forms of democratic government. There is a presidential type of democratic government. That is, in the best example is United States of America, and England and India and many other countries have a parliamentary form of democracy. A parliamentary form of democracy is one. I will speak more about that. That is because that is one of our basic values, whether at the state or at the center, we have parliamentary form of government. That means the executive, that is the Prime Minister and his cabinet, or the state chief minister and his cabinet, are part of the legislatures. They are members of the parliament, either of the House of say in England, Commons or Lords, in India, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, or in, say, states, your basically in Odisha it is assembly, but there are councils also in some states, like in Bihar. The Bihar chief minister, present chief minister, is from council. That is also not a great constitutional practice, though it is not debarred in law. But whatever it is, so what happens is that these members are legislators. The operational heads of the executive are members of the legislature. That is why it is called a parliamentary form of democracy. The second part is that they are responsible to the respective legislative assembly, or they are responsible to the Lok Sabha. If the Prime Minister is responsible to the Lok Sabha. If he loses his majority, if he loses the confidence of the Lok Sabha, he has to go. That means he is ultimately responsible to the elected members. And elected members are ultimately elected by the people of India. That means the people of India are actually the final masters. The Prime Minister or his government, for that matter, or Chief Minister and his government is ultimately responsible to the people. And people have a right to throw them out after 5 years in an election. We have seen that great prime ministers of India have also lost election. They have lost elections. Not only Indira Gandhi, Vajpayee also lost his parliamentary seat once. Indira Gandhi lost it once. So great leaders have even lost election. So who are the final masters? The final masters are the people. That is why the preamble says, we the people of India. We the people of India. So people are the sovereign. People hold the key. It is a government by the people, for the people, of the people. Long back, and one American president said this, but this is true of India. Of course, I will not get into, but America is a great example of presidential form of government. And there are mixed forms of government, like in France. There is a president and there is also a prime minister. Though the president is more powerful, there is also a prime minister. So basically, democracy is the greatest constitutional value. Now, democracy is not a system of governance only. Democracy is not as Mahatma Gandhi would say, it cannot be prostituted to numbers. Democracy means that we respect our opponents. We do not say that truth is my monopoly. Whatever I say is true, whatever others say is wrong. No. Democracy can succeed in a country. Long back, a great political thinker said, democracy, Harold J. Lasky said, democracy will succeed as long as it is a politics of more or less, not of this or that. Unfortunately, in many great democracies, even in the United States of America, which is the greatest democratic tradition, has great democratic traditions like United Kingdom. Now this has become an issue where the two opponents are decrying each other. Of course, today the president-elect has said that let us fight the virus, not each other. He has said a very important thing. Our enemies are common. So in a country also, it cannot be a BJP versus Congress. It cannot be this group versus that group. Whether in your college teachers association or amongst the students, it cannot be this or that. If it becomes a this or that, then what happens is democracy vanishes. Democracy is a way of life, much more than a constitution, much more than a form of government. Democracy is a way of life. Say, for you as children, now most of you who are in class 10th, 11th and 12th, or 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you are all adolescents, you are entering, you will cease to be 16, 17, 18, 19, and then your teenage will be over. You will get into 20s. And once you get into 20s, you are a full adult. In India, 18 is being adult because you will get your voting right. Now what happens? We have conflict with our parents. It is but natural. And you say, father and mother do not know, I know better. And they have one way, you have one way. So what happens? If it is a democratic family, then the father and mother will learn to respect the desire of the student, the desire of their ward, the desire of their son and daughter. And the student in turn, the ward in turn, will always remember the sacrifices made by parents. So we have to, both of us, to talk with each other more freely, not browbeat the one and the other, not threaten one with the other, but we have to talk, discuss, and then find out consensus. If there is something my parents tell reasonable, I have to accept. If I tell something reasonable, my parents have to accept. That is a democratic family. So if the students come and meet the principal, they have a grievance. The principal has to listen. If you develop this value that I am not always necessarily correct and other people have also their opinion, it needs to be respected. At least it must be listened to. So democracy is a way of life. It is not a mere constitution. And India aspires to be democratic. It is both aspirational, because we want a country where there is a great deal of consensus. There is not a great deal of differences. If it becomes this or that, then that democracy is bound to fail. It is bound to fail. Democratic values are to be respected and it has to be inculcated. Now, I will not get into greater. I will talk of one or two more points. The most important other point is the fundamental rights. Now, what is fundamental right? This concept of fundamental right also emerges from the first French constitution. But they did not call it fundamental right, they called it human right. So when the French people declared a constitution for themselves, and they declared, say, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, all these great principles were laid down by the French constitution, for earliest French constitution, after the great French Revolution. But they said these rights not only belong to the French people, but to the entire humanity. To the entire humanity. So they were fighting for human rights. And they said, we have a right to expand this concept of right in other countries other than in France. We are not taking an international view in our country, but we want that view to be definitely for all Indians. Now, without getting into the rights, great rights, in last 2 to 3 days, there is a great debate going on in this country. The Chief Justice of India recently in a judgment said for Article 32 that you go to the High Court first, then you can come to the Supreme Court. Now, this is very important. And the debate started. What is the debate? What is Article 32? Article 32 says that the citizens of India can approach the High Courts and the Supreme Court, High Courts and the Supreme Court, to assert their fundamental right. If the state or the government denies them their fundamental right, then they have a right to go to the Supreme Court or any of the High Courts and ask for restoration of their fundamental right. Now, when Ambedkar, I personally do not call Ambedkar the father of the Constitution, as I do not call Gandhi the father of India. It is not necessarily. He was definitely the chairman of the drafting committee, but the Constitution is not a gift of one man. It is the gift of the entire country. Not only gift of our country people, but also outsiders, because many great constitutions were made prior to India's constitution, and the constitution makers of India drew from many. United Kingdom, also from United States of America, Weimar Republic of Germany, the Irish Republic of Ireland, and we have borrowed constitutional features from many constitutions of India, and we wanted to develop the best constitution of the world. That is why it is very voluminous. So it is just not one person. It is the collective wisdom of our freedom fighters, collective wisdom of all of us. You know, Ambedkar did not belong to the Congress party, but he was invited to be the chairman of the drafting committee. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. It was dominated by the Congress, but Congress did not put somebody of their own party in the drafting committee as chairman. It was Ambedkar who was requested. Why? Because he was the best lawyer available in the country, a distinguished jurist. And that is what is democracy. Democracy is recognizing talent. Democracy is recognizing merit. It is also meritocracy. Democracy, good democracies are meritocracy, where merit is recognized. Merit is not put under the carpet. On the question of birth, on the question of sex, on the question of gender, on the question of sexual orientation, this or that, or color, creed, nothing. Everybody is to be respected as an individual. And Article 32 gives that right to each individual to go to the Supreme Court or to the High Court. And in a particular case recently, the Chief Justice did not write it in his judgment, only made an observation in the court. He had a point. The point is that the Supreme Court is flooded with so many fundamental right cases. That is why he wanted that you first go to the High Court. If you don't get justice, come to the Supreme Court. But as you know, Ambedkar, who is popularly known as the father of the Indian Constitution, the chairman of the drafting committee, said Article 32 is the soul of the country. Article 32 is the soul of the Indian Constitution that is as valid today as on 26 November 1949. And what is that? You can approach the Supreme Court. You can approach the High Court to ascertain, to restore your fundamental right. That is very important. If Article 32 is taken out of the Constitution falls flat. It falls flat. It has no meaning because you cannot approach the judiciary. The other part is that the judiciary is independent in India. Unlike in many other countries, the judiciary is independent. Even though it can be hotly debated, the appointment of judges are also not political in India. As you know, incidentally, in the United States of America, the president appointed a new judge to the Supreme Court, and the opposition did not have the numbers to prevent it in the Senate, but they cried foul. They said the new president should do it. There is an election, and that is why he should not do it. The outgoing president should not have done it. That is another issue. But the point is that there is a political angle in appointment of the judges of the Supreme Court in the United States of America. Whereas in India, you know, judges are appointed by the President of India. They are definitely approved by the cabinet, but they are not approved by the parliament. The legislature has no control over appointment of judiciary, as it happens in the United States of America. Without Senate approval, nobody can be appointed. And it's not a political appointment. As you know, the process of appointment of the High Court judges and the Supreme Court is through a collegium. A group of judges sit and recommend names to the president. President asks for the opinion of the cabinet, and then after the prime minister okays it, the president appoints it. And if they refuse, you know, if the Supreme Court repeats the name second time, the president has no option but to appoint him. So we have a independent judiciary, absolutely an independent judiciary. Of course, there is the power of impeachment. If somebody commits gross mistake and all that and misconduct is there, then the parliament is free to impeach somebody. But that is another story. But the judiciary is independent. If the judiciary is under the thumb of the prime minister or the president of India, you know that the entire constitutional value of India will collapse. There will be no constitution. It will be a banana republic, as somebody would put. No, many neighboring countries, many countries have failed. The constitutions have not lasted in many countries. But in many other countries, the constitution has succeeded and great democratic nations have emerged, like Japan, South Korea, amongst our neighbors, even Sri Lanka to an extent. And it has failed in many other countries. Bangladesh, it failed initially, but now it has stabilized. Pakistan, it has failed for quite a many years. It is yet to stabilize. So that is what happens, that a country has to have separation of power. Separation of power, Montesquieu was the father of separation of power. And we have a separation of power. Of course, we have a parliamentary democracy where parliament has some right. And the final feature with which I will close this talk is on one more point. That is parliamentary supremacy. I have already told you the people are ultimately supreme. But functionally, parliamentary supremacy is there. Functionally, the parliament is supreme. Is it supreme? No. Why is it not supreme? Suppose the parliament changes a feature of the constitution, which the judiciary considers to be the fundamental feature of Indian constitution, then in that case, that amendment of the constitution will be declared ultra vires or illegal by the judiciary. Suppose tomorrow the Lok Sabha and the parliament decides to withdraw fundamental rights from our constitution. Or suppose it decides that the prime ministerial form of government or parliamentary form of democratic government will be replaced with presidential form of government. That means it is a fundamental change. And the parliament has no power to change that fundamentally. What is the opinion of the Supreme Court? That in that case, a new constituent assembly has to be. The parliament cannot change fundamental features, fundamental values of our constitution. And what are our fundamental values? Sovereignty, socialism, secular, democratic, republic. And then justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity. That's very important. We cannot achieve a flat equality. Everybody is not equal, neither born equal. And fundamental rights are those conditions without which nobody can rise to be his best self. So what is that fundamental right? That they are the conditions. The state has to create conditions, equal conditions for everybody to be his best self. So the school is also that. It tries to find out the talent of the students and make him, if somebody is to become a great player, the school will not insist that he spend his time in painting. But if somebody can become a painter, somebody can be a doctor, whatever he can become best, that is to be promoted. Similarly, the constitution is there to through fundamental rights and all that, create conditions, equal opportunities where one rises. Of course, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, that is meritocracy. Equality of status and opportunity, fraternity. Your first speaker today, he talked of fraternity, that there are 1,000 languages, there are 1,000 people, so many tribes, so many identities, so many religions. We are 1,000. But you are one. And we are a brotherhood. We are a country. We are a single country. We are a single people. We, the people of India. And we, the people of India, has to include each one of us. That is a fraternity. Fraternity is not a mere legal concept. It's a concept which has to be lived, which has to be felt. You must have the feeling of brotherhood. If there is a road accident and you just close your eyes, you are there, you can help, but you don't help. That means you lack fraternity. It's like when I say long race, you are fighting a race or marathon race, and then your opponent falls down. You do not bother to win the race. You stop. You lend your shoulders to him so that he can also complete. That is fraternity. And that is key to our constitution. If we do not have fraternity, we can never, ever create a great India. Thank you very much. I can take a few questions if time permits. Anything the students wanted to ask?
Do you have any questions, students? I hope they don't have, sir.
Okay,
thank you so much, sir.
Oh.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a detailed discussion on various facets of our constitution. Sir, while discussing our constitution, you not only illustrate many instances of our country, but gave our students a number of apt examples from many countries around the world, from the genesis of world secularism to analysis of key terms like our preamble has opened up many vistas of our constitution. I'm sure all our viewers, the students, the teachers, the parents have gained much insight into the constitution of the country through this talk. And even those who could not see this program now, they can always refer to this beautiful talk on YouTube for future references. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Mrs. Smriti Nayak, teacher in social science, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Good evening, all. On behalf of Department of Social Science, DAV Public School, Pokhriput, Bhubaneswar, values and fundamental principles of the Indian Constitution, as directed by Central Board of Secondary Education. At the outset, person, respected Professor Sushmit Prasad Pani sir, former Director, CDC and EDCE, Utkal University. Sir, we are really enlightened with your presence and opinions today. Thank you, sir, for highlighting the values and principles enshrined in the Constitution. Sir, we all commit to uphold the ideology of our Constitution. Department of Social Science also wishes to express gratitude to our revered Principal Ma'am Dr. Sujata for her motivation and enthusiastic support to conduct this webinar. A special thanks to the organizing committee of DAV Public School, Pokhriput, including all teaching, non-teaching, and IT department for their unflinching support and coordination. And definitely a special thanks to Mr. Shashank Kumar Pradhan sir for coordinating the program. The department also expressed heartfelt thanks to the students and viewers for their participation. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's webinar. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.